KATC Chief Meteorologist Rob Perillo.
Welcome back. Well, the bad news is a Category 4 storm is going to be hitting Louisiana in about 48 hours. The good news, at least for Acadiana, forecast track nudged a little bit to the east, but this is how it goes with hurricanes. We watch that track waver back and forth, but bottom line, be prepared for a hurricane anywhere in Acadiana, especially Lafayette on eastward and certainly southeastward into St. Mary Parish. So let's take a look first off what we have going on, and thank goodness we got Power Doppler 3 as we get ready for this storm. I just want to test it out for maybe a couple of severe thunderstorms, not a hurricane, but that won't be the case. We're going to have to deal with some action. In the near term, though, scattered showers moving in. We have a chance of rain overnight tonight through tomorrow in the 40% to 60% range over the next 24 hours or so, not associated with our hurricane down in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. And yes, now the Hurricane Ida has officially made it into the southeastern portion of the Gulf of Mexico, interacted with the Isle of Youth and then western Cuba, and it took a little bit of a hit, but notice the cloud tops were cooling as it moved across the island. There might have been a little extra lift with some of the mountains down there. Now it's a little disorganized, but it's going to get its act back together later on tonight. Tomorrow strengthen, and then eventually I think tomorrow night go through a rapid intensification cycle, and we'll see how that pans out. But bottom line, we do expect strengthening. Not much change in the strength as of late this evening, but still expected to become a Category 3 storm by tomorrow night. 120 mile per hour winds by Sunday morning, a Category 4 with 140 mile per hour winds, and there is actually a little bit more room on the ceiling on this, so it could go higher, making landfall as a 4. It looks like it's a 3 before landfall, but it's kind of our parallax error, and this is actually over land. So once it's over land, it begins to weaken down to a Category 3. But notice landfall now squarely in Terrebonne Parish. It's been pretty much on the Terrebonne St. Mary Parish line, so it has been adjusted about 10, 15, 20 miles to the east. And every 10 to 20 miles makes a huge difference, as we all know, with hurricanes going just near Baton Rouge. And this means New Orleans is going to be on the dirty side of things with tropical rains and more than likely hurricane force winds. Hurricane warnings in effect for most of Acadiana with the exception of Jeff Davis and Allen parishes, and back to the west. Again, it's just going to be a breezy day. Southwest Louisiana, much different story. Eastern Louisiana, and I would bet hurricane warnings are going to be hoisted probably with time over toward Mississippi as well in perhaps the next advisory. So GFS model has been pretty much on it, so this is what we're going with. Pretty much the GFS watch. It makes landfall right over Terrebonne Parish, maybe a little bit faster than the Hurricane Center's forecast position, but always be prepared for something to come in quicker. Be ready because it could come in quicker, and nonetheless you could see the core of hurricane conditions pretty much following right through St. Mary, lower St. Martin Parish, perhaps upper St. Martin Parish, perhaps Iberia Parish. We'll see how it goes, and again we're going to have adjustments on this track again. It could come back to the west tomorrow, so we'll keep an eye on things. I do think a lot of times some of these are mass in motion. It's going to be moving northwest. It may stay in motion, so we might see a little bit more of a westward trek after it makes landfall. So don't think if you're in Evangeline Parish you're in the clear, because you're not, and we'll talk a little bit more about the winds in just a bit. So that's the GFS model. Remember, if you watched earlier, we were talking about the graph model and its performance and how well it's done. Scattered storms through tomorrow afternoon, then here comes the hurricane. Shows up very nicely here, and again landfall on this model is Lafourche Parish, so it's a little bit east of there. So we'll see how this plays out, but you can see who's going to get battered the most. St. Mary Parish, Eastern Iberia, lower St. Martin Parish. This is where you're going to see perhaps 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts, the threat of very heavy rainfall, up to 16 inches or more perhaps over eastern Louisiana into Mississippi. Mississippi may eventually get most of the rain with this system, and it'll be moving out as we head into Monday afternoon. I think the weather will really straighten out by Monday afternoon, but Monday morning back through Sunday night, that's when we expect hurricane conditions to be impacting Acadiana. Storm surge could go as high as 6 to 9 feet in Vermilion Bay per the National Hurricane Center, even higher over southeast Louisiana. Man, Grand Isle is going to be about 5 to 10 feet underwater with this one. As for your risk of hurricane wind probabilities, Lafayette, Abbeville were at 41% earlier today, now 39%. You see the percentages coming up, and these numbers will go to 100% 100% eventually as the storm gets closer to the coast. But it's always good to see your numbers going down, especially as we go farther to the west. But nonetheless, hurricane conditions will be likely for eastern portions of Acadiana. So here's the GFS model showing those winds approaching 95 to 100. And again, the winds on this model could be 40% higher than what the model's indicating. So this is going to be a very intense storm with winds 60, 70 perhaps in Lafayette, maybe a little bit more than that. Plan on up to 90-mile-an-hour gusts, and the graph model showing much the same, only it's displacing those high winds, and we see a couple of hundred showing up in this area white. The rest of Acadiana, mostly tropical storm force winds, but it approaches hurricane force as we get into the eastern part of the state. Now tomorrow, we're going to have a much better feel for those wind forecasts, and we'll be using a HRR model versus our longer-term model, so stay tuned for that. Rainfall-wise, the heaviest rain should be east of Acadiana, anywhere between 8 to 12 inches of rain, but this is what we have to look at with respect to timing for Acadiana. We have the surge, 4 to 8 inches of rain, mainly Lafayette eastward, higher amounts farther east, gusts anywhere down toward the coast, especially coastal Vermilion on over to coastal St. Mary Parish, may approach 130, 140. That's Laura-like damage. 60 to 90 for the rest of Acadiana. Back to the west, even less. And then widespread power outages, plan on that as well. Forecast in the near term, again, scattered showers and thunder showers tomorrow, not associated with the storm. We'll get into the lower 90s, and we'll be only in the 80s for Sunday and Monday, with hurricane conditions likely Sunday night into Monday morning. We'll have more tomorrow, and of course, Daniel Phillips will have the very latest on GMA. That's it for weather for right now. We'll have more in just a bit.